From WDTN, Dayton's NBC, this is Dayton and Beyond.
Since 2002, Mike Turner has served Ohio's 3rd congressional district in the U.S. House of Representatives. He's landed on the best committees and been a voice in Washington. But our current economic crisis has many in his district severely challenged. Well, he's long overdue for a visit on this program. So welcome back, Republican Congressman Mike Turner.
Thank you for having me.
You have not been here in a while.
Yes, it's been a tough schedule to get, but I'm very glad to be here.
I know, so we've got a lot to cover.
We should do this more often because I love being here on
And
the show.
you are, and now that you've brought some backup here in the studio, we're going to make sure that happens on a regular basis.
Great.
Is it fair to say that the economy has hit your district pretty hard?
Oh, absolutely. When you look at the areas that are the major trouble spots of the economy, you have the mortgage foreclosure crisis, which we've had for almost a decade here. You have the failure of the automotive industry, which was a good portion of our economy, and then coupling that with you have the consolidation in the transportation issue and the DHL jobs that we've lost. So we're at the intersection of some major economic areas that our country is seeing as contractions, and we've of course seen them happen here.
Let's talk specifically about some of these specific areas that you just mentioned. You mentioned the automotive industry. Between the truck and bus plant here in Moraine, you had the departure of Delphi. Those are both huge hits for our region, and then you have these jobs just like overnight they're gone. Right. So instead of talking about what could have happened or could we have prevented it, that's such a waste of time. So let me ask you, what now?
And what do we do?
What do we do now?
Well, there are some things to do. And if you remember, if you go back to 1978 when Frigidaire closed and we lost 8,000 jobs all at once when those jobs left, our economy, our local economy recovered, and it recovered by people transitioning into other areas of employment, and other businesses grew. The problem is that when that happens all at once, you have this drop that occurs and the pressure on families. So it takes a while to build back up. But overshadowing that, we have the national and international financial and economic crisis that's going to slow us. The General Motors and the Delphi's jobs, they represent more than just those positions that are lost. They represent also the supplier chain, the other businesses that supported them. My father retired from General Motors after working there for 42 years, so I know the number of families that are impacted and the ways that they're impacted. Now, ways that we make the transition are obviously supporting the individuals who have had job loss so that they have support through the transition. But the secondly is looking at ways to provide educational opportunities and other job opportunities. How can they transition from what they know to something new and representative of the new economy? Friday, I was just at a graduation from a company that has undertaken looking to our current job base, those individuals who have done very well in professions and jobs that are no longer here, and transitioning them to jobs that will be available on Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So you're trying to redefining the focus? Absolutely. Okay. This program provides the opportunity for people to get their classified level of status, their clearance, and also training on how to do intel work. The Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is undertaking its largest expansion since World War II. As you know, with the BRAC threat that we had, where they reviewed all the bases across the country and internationally for closure, we were a base that won. They said this is a high-performing base. It's a cost-effective place to do business. There's over a $400 million expansion going there at Wright-Pat, largest since World War II. Over 1,000 jobs that are being added, and we're trying to get people plugged into how you can get educated to get those jobs. Well, what's interesting, it seems when you speak from a global perspective, just since January, we've had multiple bailouts. Now we've heard that Chrysler is going into bankruptcy, and when I just talk to people in general, they sit back and they talk about how their 401ks have basically disappeared. I have friends of mine who said they don't even open up their statements anymore. They don't even want to know. So you have people, on top of losing jobs, you have the people who are still working completely scared to spend any money.
So
Absolutely.
what do you say to those people who have no confidence economically and they don't know, where to go for help?
Well, there are a number of things that people should be confident of, and other things that and some things people should be concerned about. The confidence. Obviously, deposits in banks are secure, and our banking system is going to be secure. There certainly is a number of concerns in the investment markets. And the way that we have to stabilize those is by getting at the root of the problem. The mortgage foreclosure crisis, the lack of assets that represent the type of security that the banks and the financial institutions need in order to be able to value them and taking investments to market needs to be stabilized. Now, from our local region, we've seen this well before the nation experienced it. When I served as mayor, Dean Lovelace brought forth the issue of the number of foreclosures that were happening in neighborhoods. And rightly so, he tried to get the city of Dayton to pass legislation that would have stopped, that would have prevented this type of abusive activity. And I really think this is going to result in, once we review this, I think people will look back and say this is probably the largest theft that's ever occurred in history. Because what happened is that people had the American dream. They owned their own home already. And then by being solicited for refinancing, they were put into loan packages that they can't sustain.
But you've done some work. You specifically have done a lot of work in Washington on this issue.
Absolutely. There's a number of things that we have supported that are making a difference. One, our local Fair Housing Center here has done a great job in providing people with the assistance as to how do you transition from a bad loan product to a good loan product. Jim McCarthy at the Fair Housing Center has been a leader in trying to put together how do we get national resources to help people know how to get out of a bad loan, and we've supported federal funding that helps them do that. We need to get people into to loan products where they can maintain and sustain their home and the American dream. And
so you are confident in your work in Washington, because I know that you have really worked on legislation that would help this foreclosure situation. Where does that legislation stand? Well, there are two pieces of legislation, one that has passed the House and another that is about to go to the House. It'll also go back and try to make try to prohibit some of the practice that we saw. There was a structural shift in home lending. One, with the number of refinances, people would come in, they'd have, let's say they had a $75,000 house. The bank in refinancing would convince them that they have a $100,000 house. They would tell them, we'll give you $10,000 and we'll capitalize your fees of 15. So the mortgage lender walks away with 15, the homeowner gets 10, but then they have a mortgage that's higher than their house. And structurally, you cannot maintain that. And those are the foreclosures we're seeing, where the value of the loan exceeds the value of the house. And we're trying to prohibit that. Those types of loans should not be given. Someone should not owe more than their house is worth. That's correct. Okay, well, we're just getting started. Mike Turner has been busy representing this region in Washington. Coming up, more on his initiatives, including more about Wright Pat and his fight to forever protect Hawthorne Hill. We'll be right back. From the beginning of his tenure in Washington, Congressman Mike Turner has been a leading voice on key issues involving the environment, our military, economic development, and historic preservation. A real treat for us is to get him in our studio for 30 minutes with an update on things affecting the region and the country. Congressman Mike Turner is still with us. And you're coming back more often. Okay, we recently observed Earth Day, and you know, it's almost kind of funny when you say Earth Day, because now we're hearing more green initiatives on a regular basis. And so when I knew you were coming, I said, you know, you have really done a lot of work on environmental issues. Talk about the legislation that you had on brownfields, and this has been something that's always been key for you.
One of the things that when we look at healthy cities, and trying to sustain cities, that we have to acknowledge is that, you know, the natural state of a city is decay. Unless you're rebuilding it, unless you're reinvesting in a city, it doesn't matter if it's Paris, if it's London, if it's Dayton or Cincinnati, the things that are in that city are going to be aging, businesses are going to be leaving, hopefully businesses returning. But in order to accomplish that, you have to do something with what's there. You have to redevelop it in a way that can attract jobs and can attract vitalization. And one of the things that we have structurally a problem with in our country is that with our brownfield legislation, our rules on cleaning up environmental contamination, we've actually made a disincentive to come into urban areas and an incentive to go to green fields, to go up or down I-75, find some cornfield off of an exit and put your plant there. Because there's no risk if it's just dirt that was farmland. But if you go and take Frigidaire's former site in downtown Dayton and you get into it, you are liable for all the costs and cleanup of the
So you're really pushing the cleanup of these spaces that could be used and needs to be used to keep the core city thriving.
Absolutely, because if you give an incentive for the business to be able to come here and clean it up, a couple things happen. One, jobs come, and that's important for the school system, for downtown, for the tax system. Green space is preserved, cornfield stays a cornfield, but also the contamination that was there gets removed, because right now the contamination is sitting there, a threat to our water, and really a threat to the community that lives around it.
So some of the sites that you talked about, Frigidaire, but I know that there are some other key sites that you think really could be great spaces for industry.
Absolutely, well, and other types of uses. The old NCR site is one where we've gotten federal monies that will go directly to the environmental cleanup of the site. You know, there's a significant amount of contamination that's sitting there, which was a disincentive for it to be developed. That's why we've seen those. You know, sometimes when people drive by abandoned areas in a city, they think, oh, no one wants to be here. Well, no, there's a reason why they're not there. And the reason that the NCR property sat there is because there was environmental contamination that was making it difficult for development. So matching the federal funds to be able to clean up the site, the University of Dayton now is going to be expanding and developing a portion. We're going to see that land put to good use, and the environmental contamination will be removed.
And jobs.
And jobs.
That's the key thing. You mentioned briefly in the first segment about your leadership role when it came to the BRAC initiative and making sure the Wright-Patt was protected. What are some of the other updates that you can bring us as it relates to Wright-Patterson overall for the region?
Well, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is the good economic news that's happening in the region. It is undertaking the largest expansion since World War II. And you and I don't remember that expansion, so this for us will be our new one. That's right. The over 1,000 jobs are going to be added, and this is a result of the Base Realignment and Closure Commission, where they took a view nationally and internationally of all of the bases and decided not to close or downsize ours, but to grow it. Now it's a $400 million expansion. So far, $230 million of the $400 million has been allocated to Wright-Patt. Let me give you some perspective on that $230 million, which is the down payment. If you took the cost of the Schuster Center, the baseball stadium, and Riverscape, and you tried to get to $230 million, you'd still have 60 left over. So if you remember the excitement that we had in downtown when all the cranes went up, when we were building the Schuster Center, Riverscape was being done and baseball was being done, you still are 60 million short from the first installment
The
of the,
first, that's
of the
the key
construction
to that
that's happening.
statement.
Now, we have about $200 million left to secure for Wright Pat for them to finish. But if you remember that excitement in downtown, that excitement is now happening at Wright
Great.
Pat. As the people go back and forth to work, they're seeing the activity of the construction.
That's great. Last fall and through spring, and I'm not sure you're aware of it, WDTN kind of led this current initiative to at least try to bring people to the table to talk about regional government. We even sponsored a trip to Louisville to look at their successful merging of the core city and the county. Tell me, what are your thoughts about regional government, particularly now when you look at the economy and the possibility of shared services or duplication of services? Is regional government something that could work here in this area?
Well, if you look at Indianapolis, and if you look at Louisville, and really Columbus, because through annexation they've almost expanded to the limits of the county, you can see that it's a model that works. The issue is this, and I think this pretty much illustrates it for the region. If you are coming in with a manufacturing plant to this region, and you want to locate it here in the region, you want to look at the best locations, the best possible places where you could go. If you're competing this for Indianapolis, Ohio, and Kentucky, in Louisville and Kentucky, Louisville and Indianapolis, you pick up the phone and you call one person. In the Dayton region, you have more than a dozen that you'd have to call to find the best location. That's the kind of work that a business doesn't want to do.
They want to fool with it.
They want us to do that work. So in addition to savings, if you combine services, when we had a number of different, when regions developed, the time and distance between us was greater. I mean, it took a long time.
Sure.
Kettering was the country.
Right.
So I think there's some real opportunities from combining efforts specifically in the economic development area.
You led, and they say, here you are, this big congressman, former mayor, but you have always, at your core, had an interest in historic preservation. I know you led the Rehab-A-Rama initiative. You authored, and I can't even imagine what that was like to witness the president signing legislation that you authored, preserving Hawthorne Hill and other sites. Why was that so important in this region?
Well, I think historic preservation is important because it goes to the fabric of who you are as a community. When we say, how do we become who we are? Why is Dayton developed the way it is? It goes right to the leadership and the people and the history that occurred here. You can't have just shopping malls and strip shopping areas
Right.
to explain a community. Then we would all look alike. And this is now an ability to say, why are we? Why was Dayton developed the way it is? What were the inventions and things that happened here? Hawthorne Hill is the historic home of the Wright brothers, has not been open to the public and for a long time. Most recently, it's become available by the Wright family,
Right.
Working with Caroline Park. To be able to preserve that for future generations and ensuring that it's going to be open and available for people to come in and see will inspire people for other innovation. As you hear the Wright brothers story, you cannot help but be inspired to think of, well, what dreams can I dream and what things might I accomplish?
And there's also some grants attached to this that nonprofits could also benefit from.
That's right. Well, we have a unique national park in that it is a number of organizations that have come together in addition to the national park. We have Caroline Park, Dayton History, the Wright Family Foundation, and this is going to give an opportunity for funds to travel in between them to help support all of their activities.
Okay. Well, we have one final break. When we come back, I'll get the congressman's take on President Obama's performance, and has the Republican Party turned its image over to media personalities? We'll ask him when we come back. Ever since Barack Obama's presidential victory, the Republican Party seems to be trying to reinvent itself, particularly with its leadership. Welcome back from the 3rd Congressional District, U.S. Congressman Mike Turner. Let me ask you a question, because what's your take on the Republican Party since last year? Clearly in November, America spoke. So how do you interpret what they said?
Well, you know, I look at all elections as about the individuals and the people. I mean, even though, you know, we all might affiliate with one party more than the other, I think pretty much people vote for the person, and most people split tickets. Very rarely do you find somebody who is just, you know, down the line, they're only going to vote for one party. They're going to take a look at the individuals, and I think most races need to be explained by, you know, what was going on at the time and the individuals that were running.
Boy, that's a nice political no answer.
It's a great answer, because I think it is the truth.
No, it's not. I mean, it's a non-answer.
If you talk to people, Sharon, if you talk to people, you are so fun. If you talk to people about why they voted the way that they did, they're going to tell you issues and things that relate directly to individuals. I know that. You know, in my races, if people were voting just party line, you know, my electorate would not be the same. You know, when I served as mayor of the city of Dayton's 10% Republican, 10%. Yeah. But I served 2 terms as mayor of Dayton. People clearly go to the polls and vote for the person. Otherwise, there never would be a mayor of Dayton who was not a Democrat.
Well, you know what's interesting, though, for me, just sitting back watching all the players and how everything shakes out. Clearly America was saying we want something different. We're not sure what's going to work. No one has a crystal ball, but something has to change. What's interesting to me since then is that you would think that a party that was so clearly defeated would sit back and say, well, maybe we need to kind of massage how we do things, maybe move more to the middle, try to bring more people in. And it seems like they're not doing that.
Well, I'm not much of a partisan, so my perspective in talking about parties.
Why do you have a big R next to your name?
Well, because, you know, there are reasons why people affiliate with one party over another, and people feel that, you know, those things most personally. But even if you look at either party, you know, when the presidency is lost by one party or the other, you lose the natural symbol of a head of the party. Right. You know, when George Bush defeated Al Gore, the questions were asked very...
Who's going to be the leaders?
They were asked very much the same. The Democratic Party's in disarray. There's no leader. You know, you'd think that they'd be reaching out farther. I mean, it's the same. Those are the same things. I don't think America is run. You know, we have parties. We have parties that are a structure, but we're the type of country that goes for individuals. Otherwise, you'd never have a Barack Obama as president.
But I agree with you.
If we ran by parties, Hillary Clinton would be president of the United States. Period. Right now, the reason why we vote individuals is how someone like Barack Obama can rise through the process and become president of the United States.
So as officially as a Republican, tell me, what are your thoughts as it relates to Michael Steele as the new leader of the Republican Party?
Well, you know, I think...
Were you surprised by that pick?
I was excited by that pick.
Okay.
Because, again, it shows that, you know, that we will make decisions based on individuals, not just based on who's next or who's in line. And that gives us the opportunity for leadership to rise and people to rise to leadership positions.
Well, you know what is strange to me, and you know, you can never figure out why things happen, but what's strange to me is here you have Michael Steele, who clearly was a unique change kind of pick for the Republican Party, but yet I don't really sense that he's the cream rising to the top, because he gets lost in the Sean Hannity and the Rush Limbaugh conversation and media attention, and I'm like, how is this happening?
You mean like the media might actually have an impact?
But it's not
coming from someone in the media.
Well, but no, the media does have impact.
Absolutely,
It does. But it's just strange to me that instead of me sitting back hearing more from Michael Steele, which is, you know, what I want to hear, you know, as a consumer, I want to hear who are you and what are your ideas for the party. I'm listening to Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity, and it makes me crazy.
Well, you know, the media plays a very important role. They have the access. They have the constant audience. You know, I don't, for example, I'm a local congressman. I don't have a television show. You do. So the ability for you to reach people and tell them a story is is very penetrating, and the fact that you have people like me on then to be able to tell that story makes a difference. But there's no question that the media's access helps formulate opinion.
Okay, quick answers so I can get a lot of stuff in. Arlen Specter, shifting party, surprised, not surprised?
Not surprised. I mean, he's making pretty clear that he's doing this for political survival.
Okay,
that it really doesn't have an ideological backing.
Okay. Let me ask you this. With the shift of power, what are you hearing as relates to remapping of districts, and are you at all concerned about the possibility of remapping?
Well, here's something that ought to make everybody's blood boil a little bit, and that is that Ohio's going to lose 2 members of Congress coming up in the next census based on projections. And that's based upon the shifts in population that are occurring, not necessarily in just people getting up and moving, which is happening too, but because under the census, illegal aliens are counted for purposes of apportionment. 7 to 11 million of illegal aliens in the country, largely not residing in Ohio, means that states like California that are illegal alien rich get more congressional representatives than citizen rich states.
Driving me crazy.
So 5 to 7 members of Congress sit in California because of the population of illegal aliens.
Okay, it's driving me crazy. Quickly.
Yeah. Let me tell you one thing though on that. I got to tell you one thing on that. That also affects the Electoral College, so they get more votes for president than we do.
Okay, 10 seconds. How do you think Barack Obama has done?
You know, I think he's doing a good job shepherding through what he's got.
There you go.
And the with any presidency, there's great opportunities and there's great risk. Let's hope he rises to it.
Okay, thank you so much for coming, but I'll be daggone if we run out of time. The Turners will not be outdone by Bo Obama. Take a look at the newest members of the Turner family as we leave. Samson and Delilah Turner, and you will see what I mean in just a few minutes. There they are. Yay! We got to get them on television. Thanks for coming.
Our new puppies, yes.
Yes. I had